Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a question that people have been asking us a lot.
How do you get started in real estate from knowing absolutely nothing about buying a house, not having any real estate experience at all, no money, and then how would you do it if you had a little bit of a budget, if you had $10,000? A few different people asked us a few different ways. We're going to try and answer the question in the most comprehensive and helpful way possible.
Oh, yeah. And just so you guys know, if you could smash that like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I know a lot of you guys watch our YouTube videos and you guys are following us, but you're not actually subscribed. That helps us a lot with YouTube that we're trying to build that. And then also just in general, like, you know, the YouTube algorithm. So if you guys could hit that like button and yeah, hopefully we're providing some valuable free content for you guys. So help us out too, please.
So I wanted to start by saying that I think it's important to get a little bit of a foundation. You need knowledge and you need a little bit of a network. You don't have to focus on these things too much. I focused on them too much. I probably started learning about real estate for 3 years before I actually ever did anything. Of course, you need to take action, but I would say you could get all of this knowledge out of the way in 2 months if you wanted to listen to podcasts, listen to books, and steamroll it and, you know, attend seminars, that sort of thing, network with peers in your group, in your immediate area, and you might get a really good foundation and get started right away. It just depends on how motivated you are, how willing you are to take risks, which is something Dakota mentioned before we even got on the podcast. So I think in order to get a good foundation, one of the first books that Dakota and I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that teaches you some of the basic principles that you need. Another awesome follow-up book to that is Cash Flow Quadrant. So those two are written by the same guy, Robert Kiyosaki. After that, we listened to Bigger Pockets podcasts, and then there's a couple of Bigger Pockets books on real estate investing that were probably really simple, general explanations for real estate investing and for managing rental properties. So that would be a foundation for you. If you wanted to, you could also attend some seminars. So one of the seminars we attended was Fortune Builders. Than Merrill's company came to Fort Wayne. We went to the first seminar. It was like an hour, and then we went to, I think it was a 3-day one.
Yep.
And after we went to those seminars, we had a pretty good idea of how they developed systems, how they did marketing. We knew kind of what they were doing, but we didn't know how to do it exactly. They tried to get us to buy the program or like the 2-year mentorship at the end of it. We decided not to, but there's a lot of really good knowledge in that seminar series, and I'm pretty sure there's a Rich Dad seminar series that goes along with it. So that would be your foundation for learning. There's other books too. It depends on if you want to wholesale, flip, if you want to have rental properties. I can leave you guys a link below this video. You can go check out all the books that we recommend if you want to get started in real estate investing. But that's knowledge. Second one I had was network.
I got to say, I got to tell a pro tip
Okay.
on what was the event again?
The Fortune Builders.
Yeah, so pro tip for Fortune Builders. If you guys want to go to, so the first event is free. You guys will hear it on the radio. They're like, come to this free event. You're going to learn about real estate. It's awesome. You should definitely go. You meet some cool people. You meet people who are also interested in real estate, which is always fun. And then from there, you have to pay to go to the next one. I can't remember what it was, but I think it was like $199 a pop. Like for, could both of us go?
Yeah, it was $197, and they were basically like, but. So first they're like, it's worth $5,000, and then they like do reducing it to the
ridiculous.
Reducing it to the ridiculous, where they're like, guys, you cannot afford not to go to this, and they're right. It's really good. If you want to get into real estate investing, you should definitely go. But they were like $197, and as a bonus, bring another decision maker who you're going to take on this journey with you. It may be your significant other, it may be your business partner, whoever you need to make well-informed decisions, bring them, because they're going to try to close you at the next event, basically.
Yep, and so what we did is we went, we got the information, and then we felt like, a lot of the time, half the time was good information, half the time was them, just trying to sell you on like, spending $50,000 on the program. And so we called them, said, hey, I took off a lot of work from this, and we actually ended up getting our money back for it. So if you feel that you did not get the value that you wanted out of it, you can get your money back from that, which was pretty cool. They were super nice about that, but it was valuable, but again, half the time was wasted, half the time was like super valuable stuff. So that's a pro tip.
So the other note I had here was we have an awesome, especially if you're from our immediate area, there are a couple groups. Logan and Nate are both out of Kendallville. The Level Up Project, Joel Copas kind of started that, got it going. I'm not sure if they still hold events or not, but you've got Joel Copas, Omar owns a couple restaurants in town and is investor minded. Keith Ballard and like a few other guys from the Kendallville area. And so you have the Level Up Project. You can find them on Facebook, and then the Fort Wayne Real Estate Investors Association. If you're not from our area, well, there's all sorts of real estate investor associations all around the United States. A lot of them are older folks who run it the same way every month. It's very structured. They might have somebody come in and try to pitch you on using them for your rental insurance or your homeowner's insurance. They might have people come in and try to sell you programs and that sort of thing. But there's still a lot of value there, and you'll probably find some people who would be willing to help you. There's going to be some rough people or some people that are trying to like scam you, or maybe some people are not as ethical at every single group you ever go to ever. So just be aware of that. Just be a fly on the wall and go to those real estate investor associations, talk to people, meet new people, and network with those folks, friend them on Facebook, that sort of thing. You'll create a little bit of a network. And there's all kinds of Facebook groups too for like learning about wholesaling, rental properties, that sort of thing. So join the groups and build your network. You need knowledge and a network, and then you need to get started.
Yep. I would say something that I was thinking about would be like another way to kind of grow your network would be, one would be partnering with somebody, but a lot of times you're going to find that at one of those events that Tony's talking about. But another thing that a lot of people don't think about would be like joining a company and working 100% commission. So that's what ended up like me getting into sales. That's what I ended up doing, which kind of led into, for me, I sold cars, but it led into selling houses. But for our acquisitions guy and for a couple other people, that's the way that they're getting into real estate. Like they read a little bit of books, they got a little bit of skills from sales or whatever, and then now they're gonna like learn directly from like a company like us. And there's a lot of other companies out there that are hiring. So that's a low like cost, in my opinion, or easy way to get into real estate and actually learn the entire process. And literally that person is going to invest all their time into teaching you and showing you how to be the best person that you can be, and teaching you how to grow and scale a business, and you're going to see it firsthand. So I think that's another low cost to entry, or like another way to either network as well.
Yeah, if you're trying to get started and your mindset isn't to the point where you think that you'll make $100,000 your first year, or you think that you'll be able to grow and scale and expand a business, and you don't have that mentality yet, I can meet you where you're at. So when my ex-wife and I first got started, just in general, like being a couple, that sort of thing, Dakota had brought to my attention the idea of owning a duplex as your first home. A great book for that is Set for Life, where he sort of talks about how people will try to save money by not buying the $5 latte. And he's like, no, listen, so many people spend so much money on housing and cars. Try to reduce your expenses for the most expensive thing in your life. Housing is one of the most expensive things you're ever going to pay for. And so if you can figure out how to live almost for free, then you should do that. That should be the very first thing that you do. So you can buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex property, get a residential loan on it, put low money down with a conventional mortgage, conventional financing, and you can get a property live in one side and then rent out the other side, or live in one side and Airbnb the other side and probably make more than the mortgage. So there are ways to get into real estate, get started, and become an investor right off the bat, where maybe you keep your W-2 job because you want to feel safe and secure and that sort of thing, and you don't have the mentality where you think that you're going to explode, grow this tremendous business, that sort of thing. If you want to put real estate investing in your life, but you don't want to be committed to it, getting a duplex might be one of the best ways to get started.
Yeah, and then the nice thing about owning a duplex would be like, you can move out of that duplex later, and then now you get to rent out the side that you were in. So, yeah, that's a very low cost of entry, because I don't know what it is about people, and like whenever they go to spend their money, whenever it's like something that you're like obtaining, it's like, oh, it's not that risky. Like whenever you go get a car, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a car right now, and that car's, let's say it's like a Scat Pack or something, 40 grand, and you're just like, cool, like that's not that scary, $500 a month payment, whatever, that's fine. But then whenever you go to get a rental property, then you're like, oh, snap, like that's kind of risky and you're scared of it. So the duplex would be a way that you can go get that thing for yourself. You're buying, your own house to live in, but then you also get to rent out the other side. And then you can later, once you feel more comfortable with renting, you can later then rent out the side that you were living in. So it's kind of a way that you can almost trick yourself into investing, just because you're going to live in it. It is interesting that people are scared to invest, but when you're bringing on debt for your own self, for some reason that's not scary, and I always thought that was very interesting. But yeah, I think a duplex is an easy way for somebody to get into it.
Well, that's kind of funny that you say that too, because I feel like for you and I, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Where we look at things that we actually own and we're like, oh man, that's a liability. It costs me money. It's actually affecting me as an individual. And then we look at our business and we're like, let's throw money at it till it works. And if it doesn't work, then we need to work more. We need to take more action to create more deals. And like, we just need to manage all of this madness, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But us as individuals, we're more like, man, I'd really like to just not have a car payment. It'd be so nice just to pay my car off.
Yeah.
So, but some people are the opposite, like Dakota's talking about, where they're, as an individual, they're like, oh, well, this is something that I've always wanted for myself, and I'm going to go ahead and spend the money for it just because, and they don't have that investor mindset. Another thing you can do when you're first getting started is buy a property that needs a little bit of work. House hack, which means that you just live in the house, do the repairs. You should do some math beforehand to make sure that you're actually going to be able to add value to the property, because you might end up owning it for exactly what it's worth. And you want to make sure you're going to make money doing this. But some people will buy a house, live in it. Then after 2 years of it being your primary residence, you do not have to pay capital gains when you sell that property. So you need to start looking for your next one toward the end of that 2 years. Sell your existing house, and then all of the profit will be tax-free. You can use that money to buy your next house. Also, I thought it would be important to talk about finding deals and finding money. We'll probably talk more about finding deals than anything, but when Dakota and I are looking at properties, we're looking for off-market deals. That means they're not listed on the MLS. That means they're not for sale with a realtor. And typically, in order to do that, we're looking through tax information. There's a website called Batch Leads that you could use. There's a website called PropStream. It filters the tax information. Then you can target mortgage foreclosures, vacant houses, tax delinquent houses. And with that duplex idea that I was talking about earlier, I wouldn't pick a top and bottom duplex. You don't really want people living above you making a bunch of noise. You'd rather have 2 garages in between each side of the house. But you can target specific duplex lists even. So whenever we're doing marketing, you touch 200 people, you get 1 response, and after you get 10 responses, you might find 1 good deal. So you might need to talk to 2,000 people before you find 1 house that's actually worth buying. I think people underestimate the amount of action that it takes in order to get a good deal, like a dang good deal for a good price.
Well, yeah, I think that other people are confused about what a good deal is too.
Mhm.
So for us, whenever we say a good deal, we mean like you should not. It should be difficult for you to lose money on it. Is basically the way that we look at our deals. Whenever we take something on, sometimes we take stuff on that's a little bit more risky. But whenever we're buying something, it's like we're buying it for somewhere around 50% of what it's actually going to be worth once it's done. So like you can mess it up pretty good and you're still should make money on it. Or you get halfway done and then you can't finish it. You should still be able to make money on it. And that's basically what we look for. And a lot of people will tell you that that's not possible and it's a seller's market and all this other stuff. But it is possible. And I think that we are showing people that it's definitely possible and you can do it too. It's not like we're anything special or anything like that. We've just learned the systems and we've learned this over time. And we're trying to help everybody else to do it as well. But I think it is interesting that people will tell you that you got lucky. First of all, you got lucky because the market's so hot. But then at the same time, they'll also tell you that you can't find good deals. And like, they're like, okay, it's a seller's market. You can't find good deals, but you got lucky and it's a good thing you got in when you got in. I'm like that. All of that doesn't exactly work together and actually like makes sense when you think about all that. But yeah, long story short is you can find a good deal, and on that deal, you should be able to make sure that you cannot lose money on it, no matter what you decide to do with it. Whether you wholesale it, flip it, keep it as a rental, make sure that you're getting that deal at a good enough price that it's like a no-brainer.
I think I'll kind of try to give someone an idea too. If they were starting with $0, they built their foundation of knowledge, they built their foundation of a network, and they have $0 right now and they want to get started in real estate. I think one of the cheapest ways to get started would be to do wholesaling, which is where you have a purchase agreement. You agree to terms with a seller of how you're going to buy their property, and then you leave it open-ended so that you can assign an end buyer to fulfill the terms and conditions of the purchase agreement that you just created with the seller. So usually after your name, you put a slash and you put and or assigns. Then further on down in the contract, you put that this purchase agreement can be assigned to a ready and able end buyer who will fulfill the terms and conditions of this agreement. That allows you to hand over the responsibility of buying the property to someone else who's willing to pay a little bit more money for the house than you got the seller to agree to sell it to you for. So you'd be acting as a middleman. You'd say agree to buy a property from someone for $50,000. You would add on a $5,000 assignment fee, and then the end buyer would be buying the property for $55,000 plus all the terms and conditions. If you put you're going to pay closing costs, buy the property as is with no inspection, that sort of thing, then the end buyer has to be willing to do those things. But basically, you would negotiate terms with a seller, put a lockbox on the property, tell the seller that you're going to have some money partners walk through the property, that maybe you need some time to get quotes for materials and things like that from a contractor, and then potentially you could end up having to keep this property if you can't find an end buyer. You should always be prepared to buy it if you can't find an end buyer. There are some wholesalers out there who are just getting started who give wholesaling a bad name, cash buyers a bad name, but sometimes I can kind of understand those people. I mean, it does get kind of scary when you're first getting started. You can't find an end buyer. But this is one way to get started with $0. You better make sure that you have some good buyers lined up so you're not kind of like scamming your seller. But that's a way for you to make money and to get better at finding and negotiating deals. So you're going to have to be good at marketing and sales, being able to close those people.
Yeah, and that's all of that is just a reminder that deals are not always found. Sometimes deals are made. I would say 90% of the deals that we have done have been made. It wasn't just like they were like, "Yep, I'll take 50% of what my property's worth." No, like we created it. They call us. You have a script, you have a system, and then you ask the right questions. That's the most important part, is asking the right questions and finding out what they're actually wanting to accomplish. A lot of times it's not the price. They need to close quickly. They're moving. They want, they want $5,000 after everything that they owe for something specific. But you need, at the end of the day, you need to find out what they want. But good deals aren't just like, oh, it's on the MLS and I found it for 20,000 and it's probably worth, 60,000. Like that does not happen, at least not from what we've seen. I don't think I've ever seen that. And if it is, it needs a stupid amount of repairs, and there's a reason that it's listed like that, because sometimes we do give up a lot of equity, but you got to put the work into it to actually get the money out of it. So that does happen sometimes, but more often than not, you're going to have to go and negotiate and actually work on that deal and make it a deal. And that's just by talking to the people, asking the right questions. And yeah.
So ways that you would be able to find good deals with no money would be to create Craigslist ads saying that you buy houses cash as is with no inspection, no appraisal, and then trying to figure out how to solve these people's problems. You would also, this would be a cheaper way to do it, but we started off with bandit signs. It's kind of a gray area. The city that you do it in probably isn't going to like you very much, which you should have like a Google number or a way of disguising who you are so they can't track you down and find you and that sort of thing. And then also Facebook Marketplace. There's all these Facebook groups. You can kind of spam them with like, hey, I buy houses cash as is. Or you could, ask someone who has a Batch Leads or PropStream subscription to give you lists that you can then target. TruePeopleSearch.com is a free way to type in someone's name and where they live and potentially get the correct numbers for them. It's right like 50% of the time. You can also drive for dollars. So if you drive around your city, you see some houses that are rough, you identify those as properties you potentially want to buy. Remember, you're going to need to reach out to about 200 of these before you get one response. So it's going to be a not so fun process. But if you drive around, take pictures of and know the addresses for these properties, you can look them up. Every county that I know of in the United States has its own tax information website. You type in the address, you hit enter, it shows you who bought it, how much they bought it for. If there's liens or anything against it, sometimes it'll identify those things. And then you can reach out to those people, and that's completely free. That's called driving for dollars. That may be the freest strategy that I've got. And then if you decided that you didn't want to do wholesaling or flipping or focus on finding good deals as much, you could ask in your immediate network. I bet there's family members that you don't know that have property. I bet there's friends that you don't know that have property. Some people have those. I'm thinking of Kendallville right now for our Kendallville viewers. The bottom and top apartment with a regular like business in the bottom. So many people that you network with, that like go to your church and stuff, have those and aren't doing anything with them right now. Don't have them rented high enough. And you could literally go to them and say, hey, I want to get started in real estate investing. I don't have any money. I want to structure this deal so that I can still buy your house. Would you be willing to sell it to me on seller financing? Would you be willing to give me a land contract on it? And then explain how they're not going to have to deal with the tenants, the termites, the toilets. You're going to put money into it, make it a nice property for them. Basically, you could go to closing and ask them for a $5,000 credit at closing for paint, for some flooring, that sort of thing. And you could start off with $0 in a deal and then get renters in it and start making residual income every month and building your wealth. Brandon Hicks wrote a book. He's a Kendallville a person from our hometown who started with he's making $15 an hour at a factory, had a child with disabilities, and he and his family, he didn't enjoy being a realtor very much. He figured out how to create a strategy where he would buy properties kind of on land contract. It wasn't exactly that. It was like a master lease. But he was able to buy properties with almost $0 down every single time and bought his first $1 million of real estate, all with that same strategy with little to no money into his deals. It's called No Money, No Problem. Check out that book. But that's all of my $0 strategies. Can you think of some?
Yeah, so the other thing that I want to say about driving for dollars, if you don't want to like do all that research and stuff, there's an app called Deal Machine. It does cost some money, but it'll automatically follow up for you too, which is nice. So you just snap a photo and then it'll just start sending them postcards. A lot of people are doing that now, so they might get, bombarded with a bunch of that direct mail. But I think that I think it does work. So that's a pretty cool app, and that's another nice way to do the follow up for you. If you don't have very much time or not very good with systems, just get apps like that automatically do the follow up for you. As far as zero down goes, um, that's how Tony and I built our entire company for rentals is with zero down. So there's multiple different ways to do it, and when I say zero down, we mean like zero left in the deal. You might have to put it down up front, but like there's different ways. So how we did our properties in the beginning is multiple different ways. It's going to be a little bit confusing, but if you guys stick with me, I'll try to explain it as easy as possible. There's multiple banks that we use for this. So we use one bank called First Federal that'll give you 75% of purchase price. So for easy numbers, let's just say we buy a property for $100,000. First Federal will then give us $75,000 for that property. Or let's just say that it's worth 100, but we're buying it for 50. Then they're only going to give us 75% of what we're buying it for at $50,000. So it'd be 37.5 if I remember right. So they're going to give us 37.5. We have to put down the other 13.5 or 12.5 or whatever it is. And then you can put that on a credit card. And then they will also give you 75% of whatever you actually put into repairs. So if you put $10,000 in repairs into it, they will give you $7,500 for that. And then what you do is now you only have to, have credit cards on, the $13,000 that you put on the credit card, and then your repairs, which are $7,000. So you have $20,000 on credit cards, which is pretty scary, but it's not going to be for a very long time. Make sure your debt to income ratio doesn't get all out of whack or your credit score doesn't get shot in this meantime. But after that, then you go to this other bank over, let's just say Garrett State Bank is one that does not always have a seasoning, especially if you bought it and then you put some repairs into it. They will let you pull all your equity out. So let's use that same example. We bought the property for 50. We have a loan with First Federal for 37.5 plus the 7,500 that they gave us back after we put in 10 grand. So now we own the thing for 60. The bank gave us what's 37.5 plus 7,500?
42.5?
Yeah, somewhere around there. So that's how much First Federal has, and the other amount is on your credit cards. And then you go to Garrett State Bank, and they're going to give you 75% of what that property is worth. The property's worth $100,000, so they're going to give you $75,000 back. So regardless of the math, you know that you have less than $75,000 in the deal. Now they're going to pay off the credit card, and they're going to pay off First Federal, and then now you have $0 in that deal. You now put a renter in there, and then that tenant is going to pay down that mortgage, and you should make money every month, and you're 100%, like you have no money in. Actually, they're going to pay you some money. You're probably going to get $12,000 back at closing. We've had deals like this happen more than what most people would say is possible. And the cool thing is that money that you get back from the bank is also tax-free. So yeah, that's how we built our entire business is by using debt and by using $0 left in every single deal. That is the goal. And the cool thing about that is you have to find such a good deal that the property is still going to cash flow even after you pull out all your money. And that's difficult to do. You have to find a really good deal to be able to do that, to have the tenant pay down the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and repairs and still make a profit, and you have it 100% leverage. Like that's a difficult thing to do, but it is possible. So that's what we've done and what we've built, and those are two banks that are great for that. So First Federal Savings Bank is great for whenever you're purchasing it. If you're just getting started, they're one of the first banks that helped us out. And then Garrett State Bank, we've done several loans with them. They work really well with investors as well. So that's another thing that I could think of.
Yeah, if you're not from our immediate area too, you can go on listsource.com, type in the criteria that you would want for the properties that you would buy, and you would put owned by corporations, not owned by individuals. Go to the very last screen and check off the lender name, and that will give you a list of who all your competitors are using to fund their deals. So you might find construction loan companies. There are companies out there, banks out there who will do creative financings. Basically what Dakota's talking about. There are banks out there who are willing to take bigger risks because they understand what real estate investors do and what real estate investments look like, or at least they pretend they do. Sometimes they still act confused with some of our stuff, but they will give you money immediately. You won't have to wait to get your money back. Typically, banks have a 6 to 12 month seasoning period. There are banks out there, though, who will allow you to cash out refinance of a property that you own cash and get 100% of your money back and then some, like Dakota said.
Yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to mention was, a lot of people would ask, okay, well, you can't just go put the down payment on a credit card. It's not like you could swipe that at the bank. So you have to do what's called manufactured spending. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up and they'll explain it easier. But the gist of it is you take the credit card, which you want to get, in my opinion, I would get a business credit card if you can, because whenever you get your business credit pulled or your personal credit, you're not going to see what's on the business credit card except for Capital One. For some reason, they're tied together. But get like a Chase Unlimited business card or some kind of business card. That way, the banks, when they pull your credit score, they're not going to see that it's maxed out. But anyway, hopefully no bankers are watching this. But you take that credit card, you go to CVS, you can do $2,000 a day. They scan your car, they scan your driver's license. You take that $2,000, you go to Kroger or something, you get a money order in your own name, you write it out to yourself, put that in your bank account. Now you just created cash from credit, and it's not a cash advance because you technically spent the money. You get a lot of points that way as well, but that's the way that you take money from your credit card and actually turn it into cash. So again, if you need more context on that, just look it up. And yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and that's if you have Dakota's talking about how to do it. You pay fees and stuff in order to activate the debit cards and the money orders, but that is a strategy that you can use to borrow money at 0%. So if you have a credit card with an introductory 0% purchase APR for, let's say, the first 12 months, then you can do that strategy of manufactured spending to spend the money, and then you are borrowing money at 0% minus the fees and stuff that you have to pay to activate the cards in the money order. So now I want to talk a little bit about how I would strategize if I had $10,000 to invest in real estate. 10 grand is a lot of money and not very much money at the exact same time, because you could use 10 grand and put it down as a down payment on your duplex, triplex, whatever, and then you're kind of done. You're kind of stuck for a while until that duplex, triplex starts to generate residual income. You save it back. You kind of have an oh crap fund in case something goes wrong with that property, that sort of thing. That's the safe way to do it. That's the most conservative way to do it. You could buy a property and use the 10 grand, and then you'd have one house, and that's it. That's just you investing in real estate. And you're still technically a real estate investor. And for some people, that's going to be exactly what they would do. They would find a property, put 10 grand down, and be like, wow, I invested in real estate. I got a house. And they're further ahead than the majority of people. Like, good for you. You have one rental. You're further ahead than the guy who has 0 rentals. However, if you have an abundance mindset and you want to create a company and you want to, say retire early, like Dakota and I are planning on doing, you can grow a business really quickly by expanding the number of deals that you come across. So when we were talking about finding deals, we already kind of talked about finding money with the banks, but you could get a decent CRM or even use Google Sheets to keep track of all the people who contact you. That's free, or $100 a month. We use RE Simply, SIMPLI, RE Simply. You could get a CRM, and then create phone numbers for each type of advertising you do. The CRM allows you to do that. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. And you could start using things like letters, sending out postcards, and doing cold calling and doing texting. So first you have to find good lists, which I would get from batch leads and PropStream, of people it sorts tax information against the United States Postal Service vacant list. It sorts tax information against the pre-foreclosure Liz pendens that are going out right now for people who are going to lose their properties. You find out all these targeted lists of folks, get that list prepared, export that list, and then skip trace it. You can skip trace it on batch leads as well. Skip tracing is just where they test a name and an address and mailing address against records, and it gives you their phone numbers and email addresses. So then you load that into a dialer and start cold calling those people, or you load that into a batch leads texting campaign. You can send out up to 1,000 texts a day. So that's how I would recommend spending $10,000. It's 3 cents a day. I can't remember how the math comes out, but I believe we spend around $1,000 a month sending out text messages to motivated sellers. And when I say motivated sellers, I mean 9 out of 10 of them message you back angry things and want to hurt you for sending them a text for some reason. And then you put those people on your do not call list. And for some folks who reach out to you from the letters that you send out and the postcards that you send out, you also add them to a list to be taken out of your future list, so you don't continually contact the people who are going to try to sue you or try to show up at your office and that sort of thing. But finding deals would be how I would spend the $10,000, just so that you could find deals to wholesale, and maybe in the future, once you accumulate a few assignment fees and find some banks and show that you can be profitable for a little while, then find properties that you can flip and rent.
Yeah, and another thing that you could do is maybe spend $8,000 on marketing and $2,000 on like maybe your sales skills, if you don't have any. So it really depends on where you're at, because if you bring in all those deals and then you can't close any of them, then it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good either way. Because like I said, it's not like these people. I mean, I would say 1 out of 100. In sales, we always talked about, I guess, 10%, and then the 80%. So 10% of people are going to just be like, yep, I want $5,000 and just be done with it. 10%, another 10% of people are going to be like, I won't sell my house even if you gave me $1 million. And then the other 80% are going to be like, well, how much are you going to give me? Well, I don't know. I mean, I saw other houses in the area that are going for this. Those are what you got to focus on, is that 80% of the stuff that you can actually control. 10% are going to be laydowns. 10% are going to be like just the hardest people ever and like not even worth your time. And then you got to focus on the 80%. Or if you don't want to spend money or learn sales because you don't want to do that, another thing that we do is JV with people, which means like basically we have a joint agreement or joint venture. We'll sign an agreement, and then you can just bring the leads to us. We will close the deal, or we will wholesale it for you, find the end buyers, or we will close on it, list it on the MLS, and try to maximize the deal to get the most amount of profit possible. And then we will split the profit 50-50. So you do not have to close the deal, dispo the deal, anything like that. You literally bring it to us, and we will do all of the sales for it. We've done this with several people. There's actually a couple people that we've given deals to that we've partnered with, and a couple people that have come to us to partner up with deals. So if you don't want to learn the sales side and deal with the 10%, or learn how to deal with the 80%, then you can always bring those deals to us and just spend your money on acquiring those, and you will still could make a decent amount of money, and you should be able to make your marketing dollars back.
Yeah, you can always reach out to us too if you're from our immediate area, or if you want our opinion on what we would buy a property for. We could actually be your end buyer. So you should still build your cash buyers list with websites like PropStream and Batch Leads, grow your network with the real estate investor associations and that sort of thing. But if you need some help and you want to reach out to us, we can give you a good idea of what we'd pay for a property and potentially be your primary buyers if you choose to do wholesaling. Also, you can hire someone. If you don't like doing the sales activities, you could hire a great sales guy, and then you could still have the ability to close on your deals for good prices. We pay our sales guys 10 to 20% of the net profit of whatever we make on a deal.
Yep. So hopefully that helps, guys. We are going to have a course coming out on November 26th that is going to give you more in depth about everything that we just talked about. Like, this is just kind of scratching the surface. We're trying to give you guys a general idea about how to get started. Hopefully this does help. But if you need more specific or more step-by-step on every other step of the process, we are literally creating this for you guys, because a lot of people ask us how to do it. And honestly, we can only give you so much information at one time, or, in this hour podcast. But if you guys do want more information, then sign up. We will post the link down below. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook, or wherever it's at, we will have it somewhere in the description. So thanks again for watching. And please remember to like, subscribe to see all of our videos, and we'll keep posting out some free content.
Haha. See you guys later.